I have some question prepared, but I want to build on one thing that you said, which is really interesting. If you can do it on Zoom, why do we need to be in a
Don't do it in the
room?
room. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
great. Relate that to your view on keynotes, because
Mm,
keynotes can be done in a Zoom, right?
yep.
Can be, I mean, literally and figuratively.
Yep.
But there is something about the delivery and the engagement, the connection, the activation, all that
Yep.
happens when you're in the room. So
Right.
thread that needle.
Yeah. Well, I think there's been a shift in the keynotes too, right? So just getting up on stage and being a talking head and standing there isn't going to cut it anymore. To do an effective keynote now, you really have to be engaging with the audience. We know that attention spans are shorter now. The pandemic sort of drove a lot of that. Our focus on social has driven a lot of that. So we know it's just the way it is. Our attention spans are shorter, right? And so you have to be sort of disrupting the brain every so often to get it back focused on what the point is of the
Right.
keynote. So I think the most effective keynotes are the ones that have a lot of audience engagement. I like to tell a story about a keynote that I had many, many years ago. This was long before COVID, where the presenter showed up. This is before you could dial in, right, to the systems and pull down files. So I had told our keynote that he needed to bring his computer with the session on it. Well, he comes flying into the booth. He's like, "Okay, so we're ready to go. You got my session." And I looked at him and I'm like, "You brought your computer, right?" And he's like, "No."
Mm,
So we did not have his session.
wow.
Okay, so here he is, supposed to go into this room of a couple hundred people, and he has no computer with him. Luckily, that was what the days of printing handouts. Okay, so we had handouts. So we got the handouts out to everybody in the audience, and he just took the handout and he stood in the audience, not on stage. He stood in the audience. He's like, "Okay, we're on page 3." And then he would, talk through what he wanted to talk about on page 3. And he was walking around the audience and, "Oh, ma'am, we're on page 5 now, and helping them move forward." And
Right.
so it was ended up being super engaging. And he got done with it and he came over to me and he said, "Well, that was actually the best session I've ever done. And I'm going to do it that way all the time now."
Yeah.
So he did have his slides behind him going forward, but he always from that point forward integrated himself into the audience and walked around and kind of did Phil Donahue style talking to
Yeah.
people.
I don't know how this connects. I was a teacher for several years, and when we would read, it was not only you turn the book and point, but as they're following along, you would go to their desk or where they were and
See where they
read
were
along
at.
with them, or not just point, hey, pay attention, but actually read a portion, and it got a little more textured
Yep.
attention, if you will.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So I think the best keynotes now are ones that are different. They're not just your typical stand up there for a half an hour or an hour and deliver your stuff, right? It's got to be different. And, we're also seeing that the big names aren't necessarily what's drawing people to events. So you can pay a lot of money for a celebrity name, and that's not necessarily what's going to get people there.
Yeah.
It used to,
Yeah.
not now.
Yeah.
Now it's about the right content, right? The right kind of education, the right audience is there that people really want to network with. It has to be that full package for people to decide that they're going to invest in the time and the money to attend.
I would make the case that it's not hesitation, but there is a shift in the approach to big names. They're still getting booked, but
Yep.
even the preparation I'm seeing, whether the moderator is a lot more active and they're really, because if you bring in a big name, an Oscar winner or a Super Bowl MVP or something like that, I often get the question of like, well, what do they talk about? And I'm like, wait a minute. You're the one who threw the name out there. Why? What do you?
Yeah.
What's the connection you see? And let's work on it
Right.
together. Let's
Right.
collaborate here. But I think it's really, how are you going to leverage that investment? How are you going to leverage that resource? And I think that that's part of the shifting sands too.